All right, good morning. We're going to continue talking about Abiathar. We went through a few verses the other day in the beginning of talking about Abiathar as we go through different words in the Bible. Obviously, let's see, we're in the A's because we've been talking about just words that start with A here in the beginning of this study. Abiathar stands for or means father of abundance, and talked about Abiathar being a high priest, called Ahimelech in some cases, son of the Ahimelech. He escaped to David from vengeance of Saul, who slew the priests in the city of Nob. He consulted the ephod for David, and he was associate high priest with Zadok in the reign of David. Or that's actually what we're getting ready to start talking about today, rather. So we're going to be looking at verses that show that he was an associate of the high priest with Zadok in the reign of David. Looking at 2 Samuel. Second Samuel, chapter 15, verse 35. Where it says, "And are not Zadok and Abiathar the priests with you there? So it shall be that whatever you hear from the king's house, you shall report to Zadok and Abiathar the priests." So let's back up and get a little background on what's going on there. This is a passage in 2 Samuel in chapter 15, starting with verse 13, that talks about David fleeing Jerusalem. So let's go ahead and read up, pretty much just read almost that whole chapter and get some background here, get the context on what this is talking about in relation to Abiathar. So starting with verse 13, it says, "Then a messenger came to David saying, the hearts of the men of Israel are with Absalom." Absalom was David's son, and David's son Absalom was trying to overtake David, overcome him to take the kingdom. So then a messenger came to David saying, the hearts of the men of Israel are with Absalom. And David said to all his servants who were with him at Jerusalem, "Arise and let us flee, for otherwise none of us shall escape from Absalom. Go in haste, lest he overtake us quickly, and bring down calamity on us, and strike the city with the edge of the sword." Then the king's servants said to the king, "Behold, your servants are ready to do whatever my lord the king chooses." So the king went out and all his household with him, but the king left 10 concubines to keep the house. And the king went out and all the people with him, and they stopped at the last house. Now all his servants passed on beside him, all the Cherethites, all the Palathites, and all the Gittites. 600 men who had come with him from Gath passed on before the king. Then the king said to Attai the Gittite, "Why will you also go with us? Return and remain with the king, for you are a foreigner and also an exile. Return to your own place. You came only yesterday, and shall I today make you wander with us while I go where I will? Return and take back your brothers. Mercy and truth be with you." But Attai answered the king and said, "As the Lord lives, and as my lord the king lives, surely wherever my lord the king may be, whether for death or for life, there also your servant will be." Therefore David said to Attai, "Go and pass over." So Attai the Gittite passed over with all his men and all the little ones who were with him. While all the country was weeping with a loud voice, all the people passed over. The king also passed over the brook Kidron, and all the people passed over toward the way of the wilderness. Now behold, Zadok also came, and all the Levites with him, carrying the ark of the covenant of God. And they set down the ark of God. And Abiathar, here's our guy Abiathar, and Abiathar came up until all the people had finished passing from the city. And the king said to Zadok, return the ark of God to the city. If I find favor in the sight of the Lord, then he will bring me back again and show me both it and his habitation. But if he should say thus, I have no delight in you, behold, here I am. Let him do to me as seems good to him. The king said also to Zadok the priest, are you not a seer? Return to the city in peace, and your two sons with you, your son Ahimaaz and Jonathan, the son of Abiathar. There's Abiathar's name again in this chapter. See, I am going to wait at the fords of the wilderness until word comes from you to inform me. Therefore, Zadok and Abiathar, again Abiathar, returned the ark of God to Jerusalem and remained there. Interesting. Okay, so Abiathar here, since we're looking at the context of this chapter, we're finding Abiathar's name mentioned a couple of other times. And we're finding that Abiathar was actually involved with the moving of the ark here, the Ark of the Covenant. So therefore, Zadok and Abiathar returned the ark of God to Jerusalem and remained there. And David went up the ascent of the Mount of Olives and wept as he went, and his head was covered, and he walked barefoot. Then all the people who were with him each covered his head and went up weeping as they went. Now someone told David, saying, Ahithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom. And David said, O Lord, I pray, make the counsel of Ahithophel foolishness. It happened as David was coming to the summit where God was worshipped, that behold, Hushai, the Archite, met him with his coat torn and dust on his head. And David said to him, if you pass over with me, then you will be a burden to me. But if you return to the city and say to Absalom, I will be your servant, O king, as I have been your father's servant in time past, so I will now be your servant, then you can thwart the counsel of Ahithophel for me. And are not Zadok and Abiathar, here we go with Abiathar again, and this is actually our verse that we were looking at here, associate high priest with Zadok and the reign of David. And are not Zadok and Abiathar the priests let me try this again. And are not Zadok and Abiathar the priests with you there? So it shall be that whatever you hear from the king's house, you shall report to Zadok and Abiathar the priests. Behold, their two sons are with them there, Ahimaaz, Zadok's son, and Jonathan, Abiathar's son. And by them you shall send me everything that you hear. So Hushai, David's friend, came into the city, and Absalom came into Jerusalem. So there we see Abiathar was involved with this massive leaving departure of David and a lot of his people. And Abiathar was in the middle of all of that and was actually involved with the moving of the ark. And as it mentions there, he was one of the priests. So we're continuing to talk about Abiathar here and finding out some interesting things about Abiathar. So he was an associate high priest with Zadok in the reign of David. We just saw that in this chapter 15, verse 35. We'll see him again over in chapter 20, verse 25. Where it says, and Sheva was scribe, and Zadok and Abiathar were priests. Once again, we see him being called a priest here. Also in 1 Kings chapter 4, verse 4. Just a few pages over. Chapter 4, verse 4. And Benai, the son of Jehoiada, was over the army, and Zadok and Abiathar were priests. Again, Abiathar being mentioned as a priest, and it seems to always be mentioned with Zadok. Let's get let me make sure I'm pronouncing Zadok correctly. Uh, get the pronouncer out here. Zadok.
Zodic.
Zodic. No, okay. I am not pronouncing it correctly. It's Zodic. So that was First Kings chapter 4, verse 4. Then we got First Chronicles chapter 15, verse 11. First Chronicles chapter 15, verse 11. Then David called for Zadok and Abiathar the priests, and for the Levites, for Uriel. There's more names I'm not going to be able to pronounce, but we'll just go with that. So again, being mentioned as a priest, and that was that. So get some verses here where Abiathar is called Ahimelech and the father of Abiathar. 2 Samuel. Yeah, there's some confusion here on the names. We went through this the first time we were looking at Abiathar. 2 Samuel chapter 8, verse 17. I don't know what's going on with all these different names. He's being called different names here. All right. 2 Samuel chapter 8, verse 17. And, and Zadok, the son of Ahitub, and Ahimelech, the son of Abiathar, were priests, and Sariah was secretary. Yeah, I'm not sure. First Chronicles chapter 18, verse 16. First Chronicles chapter 18, verse 16. And Zadok, the son of Ahitub. Okay, let's get the pronunciation here. Ahitub. Ahitub. Ahitub.
Ahitub.
Not even close. I wasn't even close. Ahitub. So what verse we were on here again? Uh, first First Chronicles chapter 18, verse 16. And Zadok, the son of Ahitub, Ahitub, pronounced again.
Ahitub.
Ahitub, and Abimelech, the son of Abiathar, were priests, and Shabsha was secretary. Abiathar. Okay. Okay, we got a couple more names here. Let's see. Let's check on the pronunciation of Abimelech. I've been calling it Abimelech. Let's see how close I was.
Abimelech.
Not bad. Not bad. I was pretty close. It's Abimelech. Okay. And let's see who's Shabsha, the secretary here. Shavsha.
Shavsha.
Shavsha. I was pretty close on that one. All right. So that was just him being called different names. And that's, really not a whole lot of information there on that. Don't really understand why he's being listed as called different names. But anyway, moving on here. Abiathar was loyal to David when Absalom rebelled. We saw that already. Leaves Jerusalem with the Ark of the Covenant, but is directed by David to return with the Ark. We already saw that. We read that already when we read when we read chapter 15 of 2 Samuel. Now, Abiathar also aids David by sending his son from Jerusalem to David with secret information concerning the council of Ahithophel. Let's see if we got this name. Ahitheopel. I've been calling it Ahithophel. Well, hold on, I gotta get I've been calling it Ahithophel. Let's see what it really is.
Ahithophel.
Oh, look at that. I was on that one. All right. So again, Abiathar aids David by sending his son from Jerusalem to David with secret information concerning the counsel of Ahithophel. 2 Samuel chapter 15, verse 35. I think we've already read that one. Second Samuel chapter 15, verse 35. Yeah, we've already read this one. And are not Zadok and Abiathar, Zadok and Abiathar, the priests, with you there? So it shall be that whatever you hear from the king's house, you shall report to Zadok and Abiathar, the priests. And again, this is reporting what David's son Absalom is doing and reporting that information back to David. We also see a continuation of that in verse 36, which we've also already read. Behold, their two sons are with them there, Ahimaaz, Zadok's son, and Jonathan, Abiathar's son. And by them you shall send me everything that you hear. And I'm still saying Zadok, but we already know it's Zadok. Also in chapter 17, verses 15 through 22, we see more about this. 15 through 22, where it says, Then Hushai, let me see, I forgot the pronunciation of that one already. Hushai.
Hushai.
Hushai. Then Hushai said to Zadok and to Abiathar the priests, This is what Ahithophel counseled Absalom and the elders of Israel, and this is what I have counseled. Now therefore send quickly and tell David, saying, Do not spend the night at the fords of the wilderness, but by all means cross over, lest the king and all the people who are with him be destroyed. Now Jonathan and Ahimaaz were staying at Enrogel, and the maidservant would go and tell them, and they would go and tell King David, for they could not be seen entering the city. But a lad did see them and told Absalom. So the two of them departed quickly and came to the house of a man in Bahurim who had a well in his courtyard, and they went down into it. And the woman took a covering and spread it over the well's mouth and scattered grain on it, so that nothing was known. Then Absalom's servants came to the woman at the house and said, Where are Ahimaaz and Jonathan? And the woman said to them, They have crossed the brook of water. And when they searched and could not find them, they returned to Jerusalem. And it came about after they had departed that they came up out of the well and went and told King David. And they said to David, Arise and cross over the water quickly, for thus Ahithophel has counseled against you. Then David and all the people who were with him arose and crossed the Jordan, and by dawn not even one remained who had not crossed the Jordan. So there's Abiathar being involved with getting information back to David. and showing his loyalty to David. Also, we see here that Abiathar aids David by sending his son from Jerusalem to David with secret information concerning the counsel of Ahithophel. We've already seen that in 2 Samuel chapter 15. We just saw it again in chapter 17, verses 15 through 22. And we've already seen it in 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 26, I believe. Let's double check that one. We may not have actually, I don't think we have looked at 1 Kings chapter 1 or 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 26. I don't think we've looked at that yet. 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 26. Then to Abiathar the priest, the king said, go to Anatoth to your own field, for you deserve to die. But I will not put you to death at this time, because you carry the ark of the Lord God before my father David, and because you were afflicted in everything with which my father was afflicted. Interesting. Well, let's back up and get some context on that, because this is somebody telling Abiathar that they deserve to die. So let's see what that's about. This is located in a section of verses that are titled Adonijah executed. So Bathsheba, now we know who Bathsheba is. Bathsheba was the woman that was taking a bath on the balcony, but she was married at the time, and King David saw her taking a bath on the balcony. And so he inquired as to who she was because he thought she was very beautiful. So he found out she was married, and he went through this deal where he got her husband killed in battle so that he could then take Bathsheba as his wife. And that's who this is talking about here in verse 19 of chapter 2 in 1 Kings, where it says, so Bathsheba went to King Solomon. King Solomon was David's son, another one of David's sons. So Bathsheba went to King Solomon to speak to him for Adonijah. And the king arose to meet her, bowed before her, and sat on his throne. Then he had a throne set for the king's mother, and she sat on his right. Then she said, I am making one small request of you. Do not refuse me. And the king said to her, ask my mother, for I will not refuse you. So she said, let Abishag the Shunammite be given to Adonijah your brother as a wife. And King Solomon answered and said to his mother, and why are you asking Abishag the Shunammite for Adonijah? Ask for him also the kingdom, for he is my older brother, even for him, for Abiathar the priest, and for Joab the son of Zeruiah. Then King Solomon swore by the Lord, saying, may God do so to me and more also, if Adonijah has not spoken this word against his own life. Now therefore, as the Lord lives, who has established me and set me on the throne of David my father, and who has made me a house as he promised, surely Adonijah will be put to death today. So King Solomon sent Benai the son of Jehoiada, and he fell upon him so that he died. Then to Abiathar the priest, the king. Now, this isn't King David saying this, and that we had to get the context to figure that out. This isn't King David telling Abiathar he deserves to die. This is his son, King Solomon, telling him that. So then to Abiathar the priest, the king said, go to Anatoth to your own field, for you deserve to die. But I will not put you to death at this time, because you carried the ark of the Lord God before my father David, and because you were afflicted in everything with which my father was afflicted. So Solomon dismissed Abiathar from being priest to the Lord, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord, which he had spoken concerning the house of Eli in Shiloh. So very interesting right there. It looks like he basically dismissed Abiathar as a priest at that point. Um, so Abiathar supported Adonijah's pretensions to the crown, to the throne. So obviously, yeah. So Adonijah was executed in this passage that we just read by King Solomon. And so Abiathar apparently supported Adonijah's pretensions to the throne. First Kings chapter 1 verse 7. Let's see what's going on here. First Kings chapter 1 verse 7, it says, and he had conferred with Joab the son of Zeruiah and with Abiathar the priest, and following Adonijah they helped him. Okay, so let's look at these first 10 verses here of this chapter and get the background on what's going on. And I really got to close it up because I'm going to be running late here. Now, King David was old, advanced in age, and they covered him with clothes, but he could not keep warm. So his servants said to him, let them seek a young virgin for my lord the king, and let her attend the king and become his nurse, and let her lie in your bosom, that my lord the king may keep warm. So they searched for a beautiful girl throughout all the territory of Israel and found Abishag the Shunammite and brought her to the king. And the girl was very beautiful, and she became the king's nurse and served him. But the king did not cohabit with her. Now Adonijah, the son of Haggith, exalted himself, saying, I will be king. So he prepared for himself chariots and horsemen with 50 men. Okay, so this is Adonijah that got executed in the following chapter that's talking about here. Now Adonijah, the son of Haggith, exalted himself, saying, I will be king. So he prepared for himself chariots and horsemen with 50 men to run before him. And his father had never crossed him at any time by asking, why have you done so? And he was also a very handsome man, and he was born after Absalom. And he had conferred with Joab, the son of Zeruiah, and with Abiathar, the priest, and following Adonijah, they helped him. Okay, so Abiathar was involved with helping Adonijah, and this apparently is why King Solomon dismissed him as priest in chapter 2. But Zadok the priest, Benai the son of Jehoiada, Nathan the prophet, Shimei, Rhea, and the mighty men who belonged to David were not with Adonijah. And Adonijah sacrificed sheep and oxen and fatlings by the stone of Zaholath, which is beside Enrogel. And he invited all his brothers, the king's sons, and all the men of Judah, the king's servants. But he did not invite Nathan the prophet, Benai the mighty men, and Solomon his brother. Okay, so that explains why King Solomon dismissed Abiathar in chapter 2, because Abiathar was involved with Adonijah trying to exalt himself to the throne. And he was, as we have already seen, he was thrust out of office by King Solomon in First Kings chapter 2, verse 26 and 27. And we can also see it in First Samuel. In First Samuel chapter 2, verses 31 and 31 through 35. And then I've got to wrap it up and go. This will be the last one that we're looking at Abiathar here. First Samuel chapter 2, verses 31 and 35. Behold, the days are 31 through 35, I should say. Behold, the days are coming when I will break your strength and the strength of your father's house, so that there will not be an old man in your house. And you will see the distress of my dwelling in spite of all that I do good for Israel. And an old man will not be in your house forever. Yet I will not cut off every man of yours from my altar, that your eyes may fail from weeping and your soul grieve, and all the increase of your house will die in the prime of life. And this will be the sign to you which shall come concerning your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas. On the same day both of them shall die. But I will raise up for myself a faithful priest who will do according to what is in my heart and in my soul, and I will build him an enduring house, and he will walk before my anointed always. Okay. I guess that's somehow related to what happened with Abiathar, but I don't see the connection. So that's where we're going to end it today. I'm already running a couple of minutes behind, but I hope you have a great day. And I hope you've enjoyed learning more about Abiathar and seeing how Abiathar was attached into, what was going on with King David at the time in these books, these Old Testament books. So again, have a great day. We'll do it again, Lord willing. Take care. Bye.